I know people are even paying a premium for non-KYC Bitcoin compared to Bitcoin from an exchange. So you're also getting these second and third order effects from different Bitcoin miners that it's very easy to measure how they're making the world a better place by what they're doing, and then how they've stabilized the grid in so many different areas. When you just think about like game theory playing out and everything, why wouldn't you rather transact in something that has basically no fees and settles immediately? Especially as the circular economy grows, I get paid immediately and I can use that money immediately. As I've learned dealing with gold a little bit, it's a terrible medium of exchange. One, because it's so heavy, it's super hard to transport. But the other thing too that a lot of people don't realize, if you want to sell your gold for cash, sometimes the difference between the price of gold and spot gold, there might be a 10% difference on the actual price, like as someone who gets paid in Bitcoin. So I feel very fortunate that I'm able to. But when I was selling a little bit for like expenses at the end of the month, I'm like telling the person, like, he's all happy, like, we're making this exchange, and it's like, yeah, I'm happy, except like I'm not, because I'm selling my Bitcoin.
Hi, Michael. How are you doing? Everything fine on your end?
Thanks. Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks a lot for having me on. I'm really excited to be on here. I've listened to your podcast so many times, so it's really good to actually be able to be on it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for listening. That's really cool. You work for Vexel. So you're a community manager for Vexel, if I understood that correct.
Yes, so I do community management for Vexel, and then I do have a full-time job at Luxor Technology, where I'm mostly working on the ASIC trading desk. And then I also help out Orange Pill app as an ambassador as well.
Oh man, you're in three different boats directly.
Yeah, a few different ones. All of them have been extremely rewarding and awesome. Yeah, Vexel has been really cool with doing their community management as they try and grow in, well, across the world, but across Canada for where I live.
Really cool. And I think today's topic, as we discussed before, with circular economy and spending Bitcoin is super interesting. Why do you think it's so interesting? Like, why do you think it's so important that we spend our Bitcoin, that we have a circular economy, the medium of exchange side of things for Bitcoin?
Yeah, I have a ton of thoughts about all of those things. So I'll start with what I noticed when I went to my very first Bitcoin meetup in Vancouver. There was, I don't know, about 40, 50 people there. It was awesome. And then I was talking to different people. I had some Bitcoin. I hadn't done that much with it. And one of the people showed me a Bitcoin moving across the Lightning Network. And this was in 2021. So it wasn't working as good as it is now, but it was still working very fast, very quick. It ended up in my wallet pretty much immediately. And up until that point, I had always been told, oh, Bitcoin's old technology, it's slow, like we need all of these other things because Bitcoin can't do this or that. And in that moment is exactly, I was almost a maxi. And then as soon as I saw that, I became a maxi. So what a lot of places in Vancouver have done is they accept Bitcoin, and usually they accept Lightning. So we're really lucky that we have a company called Coinos in Vancouver who has got so many people to accept Bitcoin. And then we also have the community of Vancouver. So some people, such as Leo, who are helping businesses get set up on Lightning as well. He's even helping some of them set up their own nodes and every Lightning nodes. And so when we have a community that's really embracing it, people are seeing that technology. It's just really important for all of the effects of it. And what's really cool is, I mean, you're way more self-sovereign accepting Bitcoin. And then we're starting to see second and third order effects in Vancouver because there are about 100 businesses accepting Bitcoin. So what ends up happening is, one block of businesses, one or two of them accept Bitcoin, then they see more people coming in and accepting Bitcoin, then other businesses want to know what's going on. So we're really lucky in that sense. And then we also do certain meetups at places that accept Bitcoin. So we're helping grow the community that we want to see. And so, yeah, I think it's really important it be used as a medium of exchange because all of the second and third order effects, they're hard to measure, but we are seeing them play out in real time. And also just the merchants who have like Bitcoin accepted here, stickers, stuff like that. People are seeing that, and just that brand recognition really, and just that it's actually easy to use and it settles quicker than a credit card payment goes through. Not a credit card settles, but it settles quicker than a credit card payment is approved, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's so quick and right now, like on chain, it's even quick and cheap because like there's not a lot going on chain for the transactions. But Lightning is yeah, as the name says, lightning fast.
Yeah, and then there's just so many different options now with Lightning, Liquid, Fedi, just all of those different ones. And some apps that are combining them, making it easier and easier. And another thing too that I really like about it is all of the people I know that are accepting Bitcoin, they want to get paid in Bitcoin. They want you to transact that way. And it's almost like more of a respectful manner when you pay them in Bitcoin because you know that that's what they want. They'd rather have that than fiat, which is really cool to see. And we keep seeing that grow.
That's interesting. So, like, why is it? Why do you see that it's more respectful in Bitcoin versus fiat?
Yeah, that's a good question. So for me personally, I would rather get paid in Bitcoin. And if I'm buying from a merchant, who's selling something for $10 to $50, they're putting some of their savings in Bitcoin. And they're supporting the community. Maybe they're coming to some of the events. They're advertising that they accept Bitcoin. I find it more respectful because I know they're saving in Bitcoin. I know that's what they want. You're saving the transaction fee. So that's what I think on it being more respectful.
Interesting. Do you think that also for Bitcoin we need to embrace spending Bitcoin? So like before you already described the side of like why it's good for the individual and the merchant to have medium exchange of Bitcoin. But do you think it's also important for the overall adoption story of Bitcoin to have it also be used as a medium of exchange?
Yes, 100%. And there's people who I really respect in the space who have said Bitcoin will fail if it's not used as a medium of exchange. And I totally understand that point. I get that. The other thing, it can't be just a store of value. It has to have more utility than that, which it does. And it's so easy to use, obviously, with all of these different things we've talked about. There is with it being a medium of exchange, you do see the second and third order effects where people who don't know as much about Bitcoin start getting more interested in Bitcoin, and then that ends up growing the network. And that's really good to see. It's also when you just think about like game theory playing out in everything, why wouldn't you rather transact in something that has basically no fees and settles immediately? When I used to own a small business, sometimes it would take 4 business days for money from credit cards or online payments to end up in our bank account. So 4 days before I could use that money. Whereas with Bitcoin, especially as the circular economy grows, I get paid immediately and I can use that money immediately. Even like game theory suggests that that's the way it'll play out. And then that just fosters more adoption.
It's the first time someone on the podcast said that actually, and you probably are aware of that. Jeff Booth said it on my podcast. If Bitcoin fails as a medium of exchange, it will also fail as a store of value. It's a hard concept for me to grasp because we have a lot of assets that failed as a medium of exchange, like gold, and are still the biggest asset. I mean, the argument against that is like it could be so much bigger. It could be so much bigger if it also is used as a medium of exchange for everyone. But I'm still not 100% sure if medium of exchange is required in order to have the store of value. I'm 100% convinced of the other side of it, that we need the store of value without the store of value to have the medium of exchange, because why would they use it if there's no value in that? And I do think it's inevitable that medium of exchange comes, but that thought experiment is interesting. What if we don't spend it? Because if we don't spend it and just keep it, price, and unfortunately price is a huge adoption factor. When price goes up, people come to Bitcoin. So I'm still wrestling with that point. And you're right. Like people that are so much smarter than me, like Jeff Booth, saying that, and I have a hard time challenging him. But that's one thing I'm just really wrestling with. Like, why is that? I mean, I guess if everyone is focused on the price only, maybe we kind of lose the focus on it being spent. But I think then it's more important that we do self custody and operate full nodes. So I'm just I have to reinvite also Jeff Booth on that manner. Like I have to challenge him more on that. He probably will. He'll probably show me why it is like that.
Yeah, well, I'll expand on that a little bit. So with gold, the narrative still is that it is a medium of exchange. So when I talk to people, especially who are gold bugs, they always bring up how, they can exchange their gold for cash in a day. If anything went wrong in the world, their gold still has value. And so I think the narrative that gold still is a medium of exchange exists. And as I've learned, dealing with gold a little bit, it's a terrible medium of exchange. One, because it's so heavy and it's super hard to transport. But the other thing too that a lot of people don't realize, if you want to sell your gold for cash, sometimes the difference between the price of gold and spot gold, there might be a 10% difference on the actual price. So say it's trading at, around $3,300 an ounce right now. You might actually only be getting $3,000 in cash if you're actually exchanging it for cash. So part of the reason Bitcoin works better as a medium of exchange is the low fees and just how transportable it is, which I know you know this, but that's just, if the narrative of gold is alive that it's a medium of exchange, and we know Bitcoin is a better medium of exchange, it's going to just continue to go down that route and just increase adoption and everything. Would it fail if it didn't have that, if it wasn't a medium of exchange? I think no matter what, you want it to at least have the narrative, because gold sure does, and it has the biggest market cap. And it's not a very good medium of exchange, but people still believe that narrative.
Do you think that medium of exchange is kind of the more important narrative overall than the store of value one?
No, I don't. I think the most important narrative is just the sovereignty of it and being able to keep your Bitcoin in cold storage, storing it properly. Both are important. The problem I have with number go up is just sometimes it doesn't bring out the best characteristics of Bitcoin. But that obviously number go up and store of value has been a really good narrative. With store of value though, as long as you've had a time frame of at least 4 years, it's been the best type of savings account you can have. I do see that continuing to be the case. So it's just a combination of those three things really that kind of go hand in hand. And we are obviously still really early with adoption, with people using it as a medium of exchange. I know I'm super lucky, like living around the Vancouver area where within a day's drive, there's probably about 120, 130 places I could go to that accept Bitcoin. But my friend Cole and I, In one day, we went to 23 different merchants in Vancouver that accept Bitcoin just to be able to see how many like we could go to and transact at in a day. And being able to see that, see the different people who are accepting it is really eye opening and just makes the whole space so much better. And the narrative of giving, small business owners, well, any individual, that kind of responsibility and opportunity is just so important.
Yeah, it's super interesting with Canada. There's a lot of strong Bitcoiners coming out of Canada, but it feels like the politics doesn't support that. It's more grassroots and not at all from the top down anything.
No, bottom up, which is, it's pretty crazy how Bitcoin has done so much from the bottom up. And I've heard people be like, oh, yeah, Bitcoin adoption goes well in Canada because Canada needs it. And I don't know if that's the case or not, but there's just so many people that are curious and that want better. They want to build the future they want to see. That's what I see when I'm around all of the Bitcoin people. So yeah, we're really fortunate to be able to have the growth, adoption, the quality of people in the space, even though we don't necessarily get the most support from elected officials.
It's super interesting. When you're doing the community managing and you talk with a lot of Bitcoiners, I presume.
Yeah.
What are the most interesting stories and the most interesting things that you hear about Bitcoin that you might miss on online places?
Yeah, that's a good question. Lots of demand for non-KYC Bitcoin, that's for sure. One of the more interesting stories that I heard from someone is that, well, just that how they're able to transact not quite across the world, but in Europe and Canada using the Vexel app. So that's been really cool to see someone actually doing that. I haven't really traveled that much since I've been doing community management for Vexel. But yeah, someone who I met originally met some of the team, I believe at like the conference in Amsterdam, was interested in Vexel, tried it out while he was in Europe in a few different spots, and then came to Vancouver and we had a mutual connection. So we were able to connect through the app. And then he bought some Bitcoin off of me. And then before you know it, I was getting either a message from him or someone else I know being like, hey, do you know this person? I want to sell to them. Or he was asking, he wants to buy off this person. And so within like, I don't know, a week of him landing in British Columbia, he was already buying off numerous people in Vancouver. And then I know he's been buying in other places in Canada as well, which is, it's just really good to see like how it is working. And then with the team being in the Czech Republic, they have, I think they might have mentioned it on the podcast before, but someone was selling frozen squid that they had just caught. And so someone was selling frozen squid for, or fresh maybe, for Bitcoin. And it's like, it's working almost like a farmer's market would work in certain places, which is really cool.
That's awesome to hear. That's actually a topic I think that comes really short on the podcast, the value of non-KYC Bitcoin. How do you look at that and why it's important to have non-KYC Bitcoin versus KYC Bitcoin?
Yeah, it's really good to see some people who are getting into Bitcoin later than I did are buying 100% non-KYC Bitcoin. And the main benefits of that are, well, I mean, you're not giving up all your information. I remember signing into an app, you do the Face ID scan, couple passwords. They don't encourage you to take it into self-custody necessarily, depending on which app. There's some that are better than others. With non-KYC, you just don't have to deal with any of those things, which is really nice. And I mean, you're keeping the government, the reporting agencies out of your Bitcoin, which why do they need to know if I'm spending, $5 on a coffee or what I have in savings? The other nice thing too with the non-KYC, especially if you're paying with Bitcoin, depending on how like the merchant's accepting Bitcoin, there's no way to tell like that I bought something from that merchant. Whereas, if you use your credit card, it's linked to your credit card, your bank account, all of that. So it's a better way to buy Bitcoin. And I know people are even paying a premium for non-KYC Bitcoin compared to Bitcoin from an exchange, which shows that there's extra value there.
Yeah, like people are, they want the non-KYC Bitcoin so much that they are willing to jump through different hoops to get it, and also then pay a premium. So there seems to be something important they want to maybe prepare for, prevent for, which is really interesting. Why do you think this is important? Like when you look at the future, maybe there's like some law coming. I mean, in Europe we have this currently this travel rule, which is really really bad. I mean, the reality right now is not as bad, but if this all comes like that, it will be probably really bad. I don't know how it looks in Canada. Also don't know how it looks in America. But why do you think this might be a good thing for future preparations to have non-KYC Bitcoin?
Yeah, the main reason is just it's so mobile, having non-KYC Bitcoin, and the travel stuff. Like, I mean, you're not allowed to travel with over $10,000 in cash, but non-KYC Bitcoin. The reason I have my non-KYC Bitcoin is I know I can do anything with it in the future at my own free will. Whereas any KYC Bitcoin, it's mostly likely tied to some type of exchange, some type of business, which wherever they reside in, they probably have to give up that information to like government or police in the future if it was ever requested. So it's just another layer of protection, essentially. And, knock on wood, never going to have to use it. But I like having that option. Yeah, people are spending more effort to get non-KYC Bitcoin. And that's one of the good things with Vexel is that they have made it so much easier to be able to do that. And then building that trusted network, even just building that trusted network and finding different merchants, people that you can exchange Bitcoin for, goods, services. You're building a stronger network no matter what happens in the future. But like we're really lucky, like, we have a butcher, we have different restaurants. Having those in your network, if anything did change in the future, like it just makes it stronger and more mobile.
So it's kind of similar to, let's say, self-custody, where if you just look at the setup right now, like, oh, you have it in exchange, you have it on self-custody, you might think, oh, like, why would I go through the hustle through a self-custody? But if you actually look at what you're gaining in sovereignty, it makes the little bit of extra hustle, a little bit of extra education and self-responsibility that you get from that actually worth doing the thing. And in the same way, you're saying like non-KYC is the better way in that regard. Really interesting. Do you have it twice for people that have 100% KYC now?
Sorry, do I have what for?
If you have it twice for people that now have like 100% in KYC, they never bought outside of an exchange.
So myself personally, and what other people I've seen have been doing is slowly getting rid of that KYC stack and making a non-KYC stack. So I do get paid 100% in Bitcoin from Luxor. So that's awesome. But I do have obviously bills to pay every month. So I've slowly been getting rid of my KYC stack, usually using Vexel to sell that to people from the app. And so, yeah, what I've been doing is just slowly getting rid of it, and then I have a non-KYC stack that is slowly growing, and yeah, just getting rid of the KYC'd stack takes a little bit of time. Where I am in Canada, like I do have to pay taxes on capital gains, so just recording that, like as like keeping track of that as well. And yeah, it's a little bit of a process. I know some other people too, they just slowly have kind of been doing the same thing, selling a little bit every month, but then buying non KYC Bitcoin in the same month. So all basically like spending and replacing just like I would at a merchant.
Interesting. Yeah. By the way, how do you feel about Canada politics? Do you see that at all? I just heard from the news that there is a new guy that just came in.
Yeah, so he just came in. He hasn't really talked about Bitcoin that much. I think maybe he said he didn't like it when it was at $5,000 or something. So, I mean, we know he was wrong back then about it. Hasn't talked about it very much. Our other option to get in had talked about Bitcoin before, hadn't brought it up as much lately, but he's a Bitcoiner, the option who didn't get in. And then we're seeing with like the mayor of Vancouver, Ken. So I was one of the people that talked at their town hall meeting. So I was talking about like the positives of Vancouver accepting Bitcoin, how it's good for the future of the city. So we are seeing a little bit of an uptick. I mean, it might only be one politician, but that's where it starts. And yeah, no matter what happens, governments are going to print money, and Bitcoin is going to continue to go up because of that and many other reasons. But to me, it doesn't make, over the long run, it doesn't make too much of a difference of who's in power for like the individual Bitcoin holder. I do think that local and nationwide like politicians should encourage different like tech startups like such as Bitcoin ones, and try and grow that industry. That's not the easiest thing to do, obviously, and it's unfortunate that a lot of them are they're currently no coiners, but hopefully they won't be. But what Ken has been doing, like with the city of Vancouver, like really putting it on the radar, has been incredible. And just seeing some of the companies around that are growing the Bitcoin space in Vancouver, that's another thing too that like because Coinos has got so many people to sign up their business, but we also have other companies in Vancouver such as Mint Green, who is a Bitcoin mining company, and they're heating the water for different utilities, which is really cool to see. And they have their setup at a distillery and a brewery, where it like actually heats up the water to make the product. And then we also have people in Vancouver. There's a company called Coin Cards, so that's been an off ramp since like for over 10 years now, that you've been able to exchange your Bitcoin for different types of like gift cards. And so like we have these businesses that are popping up. Some of them have been here for over 10 years. And if we were getting more encouragement from our government, that would only help with it. And even just like more transparency on regulations. But part of that is also up to us to encourage that growth and to go to them and show that that's important to Canadians and why it benefits everyone.
Mining is super interesting. Yeah, it's a no-brainer politically. Even if you hate Bitcoin, you have to see that having mining as a grid stabilizer, as something that can be dynamically set in there, and it's way better than AI mining for AI data centers or any other data centers, because you can literally switch it off and on how you want, and very easily and very quickly also. So Bitcoin mining makes politically so much sense that if you are against that, you really have an agenda. Like you don't have an other opinion. You have to have an agenda. If you're against Bitcoin, maybe you just don't believe in deflationary money, in sound money, in sovereignty rights, and all those things. I don't get how you could not believe in those things. But it's a fair assessment that if you're not into those things. But with mining, it makes a whole lot of sense. Like you cannot be against Bitcoin mining from a political standpoint. Just is my opinion.
Yeah, I completely agree. And since I've been working at Luxor, first off, like all the people I work with are so smart and hardworking. And then I go and talk to people who are Bitcoin mining from anywhere from one machine to tens of thousands. And some of these operators, I feel like they're the smartest, most efficient operators like in the world, like in any type of business. It is incredible what they're doing, the efficiencies they're creating, the just how they're helping stabilize grids. And then so many people are looking at it in a lot of them are doing it in similar but like different ways essentially. Whereas like, you know, you hear stories about like the Bitcoin mining that's like helping like with the gorilla restoration place. There's another Bitcoin mining that is, because they're Bitcoin mining, it's encouraging the use of tires to be recycled. So you're also getting these second and third order effects from different Bitcoin miners that it's very easy to measure how they're making the world a better place by what they're doing, and then how they've stabilized the grid in so many different areas, how it makes sense in certain areas to build more electricity for more people because you know you're going to have a Bitcoin miner as a tenant. There's so many different ways that these companies are making the world a better place. And then it's also, from everything I've seen and read, it's the industry that uses the most green energy out of any industry, which, like you were saying, kind of now anyone who disagrees with Bitcoin mining, like you must not have like read anything about it for the last like 3 or 4 years, because even the media now is for the most part pretty positive towards it, because it's really hard to deny such measurable like second order effects that are coming out of Bitcoin mining.
Let's take a break for a moment and appreciate the beauty that Coin Vigilante has made with the Bitcoin watches. Those watches are the most amazing, the most elegant way of showing that you are a true Bitcoiner. And Coin Vigilante just dropped a completely new and amazing Genesis edition of their watch collections. You have the date of the first ever mined Bitcoin block in there, and of course also the block height and which epoch we are currently in. I love the level of detail they put in this masterpiece. Make sure to check out those amazing Coin Vigilante timepieces down in the descriptions. I love those watches so much. And now if you have Bitcoin, I really do hope that you don't have it on exchange. But if you do have it on exchange, I have 2 ways for you to deal with that. The first way is you put it on a hardware wallet. That's the entry for you to get into the self-custody game. I recommend BitBox, Bitcoin only edition, for that. It's a super simple and secure way. And if you check out the link in the description, you even get 5% off if you use the code Robin. And the second way is the Bitcoin Way. The Bitcoin Way is your all-in partner in terms of how to get the most out of your your sovereignty. They will personalize for you a self-custody setup that is perfect for your individual situation. They will show you how you can secure your own devices. Securing your Bitcoin is not enough. You also have to keep all your devices secure. One topic that is overlooked often is the inheritance plan. What happens with your Bitcoin once you are no longer here? Do you have a plan for that in place already? And last but not least, if you're in the jurisdictions where you don't feel safe, it's better to get a plan B. For all that, head over to thebitcoinway.com/Robin to get a 30-minute free call. And just a quick side note, I will be for the first time ever speaking at the Bitcoin Prague event in June. It will be absolutely legendary and I'm really looking forward to seeing all of you there. You can get your ticket in the link down in the description of Bitcoin Prague, and very important, use code Robin to get 10% off your ticket. I'm really looking forward to seeing you there. Yeah, we had in 2021 a massive push that Bitcoin is bad for the environment. And unfortunately, some traces of that are still here. But in the last 4 years, we have done such a great job. And when I say we, I mean the whole Bitcoin community has done such an amazing job of just bringing the facts and the science behind all of that, why Bitcoin is really good, to the table, and making great reports, making great things, and even big companies that maybe we even disagree with, like BlackRock. They're bringing out things to shape the narrative for Bitcoin, because that's the narrative where the evidence is. You can also have a narrative against Bitcoin, but there's no evidence on that narrative. And I think KPMG, one of the big four, they also brought up a really interesting paper around why Bitcoin mining is good for the environment, if I remember correctly. So there's a lot of the narrative has changed because big players realized that it's better to be for Bitcoin against and not against Bitcoin. They kind of realized it's better to join the team versus to fight their team, because that team is so freaking good.
Yeah, and the other thing too, like even when you say like we've done a good job, like showing what the like real narrative is, everyone who is working in Bitcoin is working for other Bitcoiners, which I think is something that's really interesting about it, and it's not the case for so many other things. So the more it grows, the better it is for anyone who owns any of it, which that's the thing. Like, so I don't have an opinion on BlackRock, but like the amount of money, effort, time they're putting in is good for me on an individual level. And one thing too that I think gets lost a little bit in the talk sometimes with, like, say, ETFs and other things, is that one of the ETFs wants you to be able to withdraw your Bitcoin in kind, which just means like they've applied so you can withdraw the actual Bitcoin from the ETF. And yes, I know that's not the case right now. I don't even think there's any ETF you can do that with. But again, game theory playing out, if one Bitcoin ETF offers that service, every other one will also have to offer that service in the future. Otherwise, they're going to get left behind. And yeah, I don't think the ETF is the best way to hold your Bitcoin, but I do believe in the future that for the ETFs, that you're going to be able to withdraw them in kind. I also think in the future, once we have more clear laws and stuff, you're going to be able to get a Bitcoin dividend from certain companies. So all of that is just going to increase adoption. And they say like liquidity begets liquidity, just so like the more of that there is, it just continues to grow. So even though there's certain things I don't like, I can still see the positives and the future that like I want to see. So like for the ETFs, like if I actually don't hold any, but if I held any, I would be wanting my ETF to be able to have withdrawals in kind. And I think that's the way it'll end up playing out as the years go on.
In Europe, they actually already have that the Bitcoin ETPs that they are called, not ETFs, that is existing since 2000, I think 15 or something like that. They actually offer in kind. So I do think if they are long enough there, also all the American ones and Canadian and all the ETFs will have to offer in kind, because it's the game theory. Because once one starts, and then people prefer that one, and to bring capital back to your own ETF, you have to also offer that feature. So it's a game theory thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know that. That's really good to hear. Yeah, exactly. Are you seeing like an increase then in like the ETFs in Europe offering like in-kind withdrawals, or do they just all have to have it now?
I actually don't know, because myself, I don't invest in ETFs at all, and I'm not that interested in the European ETFs. I was interested in the American ETFs just because the volume is so much bigger, and the amount of money they can extract from the fiat system to the Bitcoin system is just so much more. I've seen last week the Bitcoin ETFs bought 6 times the amount of Bitcoin being mined this week. So it's massive what they're buying. It's massive what they are kind of accumulating. And this will just continue. And ETFs now in America, they're in the second year now. The second year will probably be an even bigger year, and the third year will be even bigger year, because those products live from how long they're already here, and they also need some time to like get the big players in. So it's been already the best performing ETFs ever, and it will continue to be like that, and it will accelerate actually the adoption a lot.
Yeah, they've brought so many dollars into the market, that's for sure. And then from my understanding too, a lot of the companies that are offering the ETFs, like, yes, they're advertising a little bit more, like they're making it known that they have it, but I don't think their advisors are even telling 100% of their clients to put 1 to 3% of their whole portfolio into it yet. I think that's going to happen. But from my understanding, that hasn't even happened yet. And I know at the beginning, what I was being told was that they weren't even supposed to tell their clients about it at all. It was just if their clients asked about it. And so part of my background is I used to work in banking and wealth management. And the last wealth management place I worked at was a few years ago. But the Canadian ETF had been available since 2021. And we were looking at putting a client, some of their funds, into the Bitcoin ETF. And it wasn't on our approved list. So even though it was legal ETF in Canada, the company I was working for, like under their umbrella, the Bitcoin ETF wasn't on their approved list. So we actually couldn't put it in our client's account. So don't get me wrong, I don't know if that's still a thing with that company, but I guarantee you that there are for sure some companies like that. And that would have been like 2.5 years after the Canadian ETF launched. Whereas like in the US, it's been like 14 months or something. So I bet not even 100% of them that or advisors are even allowed to put it into their clients' accounts, even if they asked yet.
Yeah, it's I think 17 months. I think it's now, because it's like 1 year and like five months when this podcast will come out, almost 6 months. So will be fun to see. But I'm so curious, because you talk with so many different Bitcoiners, especially it's different when you talk with Bitcoiners on Twitter and on podcasts and stuff like that, versus when you talk with, you probably also go to like meetups a lot and stuff like that. What do you think is the best thing a Bitcoiner can do for Bitcoin?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think there's 2 things that are really important to do. And one is be patient with other people when you're educating them, and then actually use Bitcoin and make sure you're using self custody. But I'll expand on those. So I think every Bitcoiner has gotten frustrated with orange pilling people, or you've got people to like the ninth inning. They're like, I'm going to buy some, I'm going to buy some. You follow up a little bit later. They're like, oh, I didn't, or oh, not yet. And you just have to meet people where they are. One thing too is I was hoping we were actually going to talk about orange pilling a little bit, because what I've found lately, with talking to people who aren't yet Bitcoiners, I'm very fortunate. About half of my friends have some exposure to Bitcoin. So it's really good. That's above the average, of course. Part of it is because I've been talking to them about it for so long. But what I've really found lately that works when I'm meeting them halfway is, people keep bringing up the tariffs or how things are changing and et cetera, et cetera. But what I've found really works is being like, yeah, that's one of the things I like about Bitcoin is it doesn't change and I know what the rules are. And for a couple people, it seems like that's kind of just clicked, because they'll ask me follow-up questions, ask me more about it. But that's kind of what I've been using lately. And then, like in previous times, like when people are complaining about, say, like cost of living or stuff like that, and you show them how, prices have gone down when you're saving in Bitcoin, as long as, it's been over the right time period. Just finding ways to meet people in the middle and educate them, I think, is the most important thing you can do. And then just on a more personal level, using Bitcoin, being involved in the space more, such as going to meetups and using self-custody. My Bitcoin journey like almost started from when I went to my very first meetup. Like that is the day I knew, like I was like, okay, Bitcoin's a thing. I'm now a maxi. I'm in a room with like 40, 50 other people. Samson Mao happened to be the speaker. It was really good. Like I remember all of it. And it clicked for me there, seeing Lightning working in person, because it's not like I had doubts. When people kept telling me Bitcoin was old technology, it was slow, all that was always in the back of my mind. And then I actually saw it working in person. It flipped the switch for me. And so that's another thing too. Like I've shown so many people how Lightning works. And that's one of the things too with Orange Pill app. They have a Lightning wallet like within the app now, which is really good. So that's one of my go-tos with showing people how quick it is to send Bitcoin. And I'll just type in like Africa or Europe or something. Someone will come up who's 6,000 miles away, 10,000 miles away, and I send them Lightning and it is in their wallet like that. And people are like, so what, they can spend it? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, well, is there places for them to spend it? I'm like, okay, yeah. I mean, maybe not. But like, as you know, like where we live, there's about 100 you can spend it at. And that is the duty, I think, of everyone to just help grow that circular economy where they are. So, I mean, I guess I gave like 4 things now, but
I liked your first point of meet people where they are. It's a thing that I always see when we Bitcoiners come to someone that never has heard about Bitcoin or has some notions about Bitcoin. What actually happens in that moment is you have, let's say, 60-70% understanding of Bitcoin. And I think 60-70% of understanding of Bitcoin is already really high. I think nobody is close to like 90%. Like nobody grasps Bitcoin that much. But like if you have like 60-70% of Bitcoin understanding, you're really good. And then you come to someone that is at 2% or 1% of Bitcoin understanding, maybe even like 0.1% of Bitcoin understanding. So you have to forget the things that you already know. And you have to go to first principles and really go down there. And there are like there are two interesting questions that you can ask to assess where someone is in his journey. The first question, and this is my favorite question to ask someone that I want to orange pill, is what is money for you? Like that answer is telling me a lot about that person and that knowledge that he has about money, about gold, about Bitcoin, about currencies. And this is the first question. And then the second question is not a specific question at all. I always ask. It's as a specific one, depending on what he says. And it's just a question of like, let's go deeper down the same question. If he said like, I think money is the euro. And then you can ask something like, what do you think would be the perfect money? Like if you can do from scratch and design the perfect money. And I did that with a lot of people. It's super interesting. First, it's like really hard for them to come up with things, but like you give them some idea and all of a sudden they come up with things. And I did that actually on a university with a group of 20 people. And I just wrote down what they said. And then I said, okay, let's try to get things together. So they said things like, I want to have the same value in like 20 years from now. I want to spend that money everywhere I can and stuff like that. So they basically said like, store of value, unit of account, medium of exchange. So they mentioned all those things. And then I usually go through them. Okay, what are your options that you can do? Euro, for example, the fiat currencies, dollar, Canadian dollar, whatever it is. Does it really preserve your value over 20 years? If they say yes, you can prove them wrong. you can show them the facts. Then you can go on with those different values the properties of money that you have kind of figured out, and then like let them know where they are in the journey, and then you know exactly where to tackle the missing pieces to get them from 0.1% maybe to 5%. And also don't try to get them from 0.1% to 50% in like 5 evenings. Those needs a lot of evenings to get there. So sorry for my small rant. I just wanted to throw that out there because I think it's important for people to understand the first point of like, meet people where they are and don't overwhelm them with Bitcoin is going to like $200 million because they won't A, believe you, and they B, have no grasp of like, why do we even think that? So they think that you're just a lunatic. The same thing if you say like, Bitcoin will replace all the fiat currencies, Bitcoin will be the world reserve currency. No, like step back, first principles, what is money? So sorry for my small rant.
No, that's awesome. I really like that. The part when you ask them, like, give me the qualities, characteristics of like your perfect money, that seems really smart, because that's one thing that I have had trouble with, like talking to other people, is I ask them why if they're saving in Canadian dollars, this is going to be worth less next year, but you don't know how much less it's going to be worth next year. And so many people are caught up in this belief that, well, that's the way it's always been. That's the way it's always going to be. And first off, it actually hasn't even really always been that way. We've had deflation in the past 150 years, like the US leaving the gold standard in 1971. It seems like there was a big change to money since then. But even those concepts, like that's not meeting them where they are, because usually they're not familiar with those things either. So I like how you're saying, design what you think is the best, and then we can go over these different things. Do they bring up gold then sometimes when they're like talking about that?
Gold always is a thing that usually comes up. It's also, there are different people. For example, my dad really got gold. He told me when I was an 8-year-old kid and we were in Egypt for holiday, he told me, oh, the whole system is kind of bad in the debt system, and everyone like he got why we need Bitcoin way before I even could go to the toilet. So like he got that way before, but I got the solution, Bitcoin, obviously before him because I orange pilled him. And the first time we talked a little bit about Bitcoin and what it is and stuff like that, he full credit to him. He's always super open. Like I can't believe he works in sometimes very conservative industries with very conservative guys, and he's actually born. It's a funny thing. He's born in 1971. So he's literally his year is the birth year also of the US dollar, the US dollar how we know it now.
Yeah.
So that's funny, and he's kind of the guy that already knew about the problem and already knew about gold. He was a gold fan. That's why, for example, when I did my school diploma, I got a small gold coin from him as a present, as a gift. I still have it for emotional value. Awesome. And it's also fun to see how this small gold coin all of a sudden rises in value a lot. This is like one type of guy. And the other type of guy is like, they don't even know about the problem. where you have to start on a completely different side. So like they don't even are aware that we have some problem with the fiat system. They just trust in institutions. They trust in bankers. And the previous episode actually was about that. He was a banker and actually dealt with subprime products. And he was actually he was working for that Caleb guy. In The Big Short, it was played by Ryan Gosling, and he worked for this very guy, and I talked with him, and he's now a Bitcoiner. So it's really, really nice to see those people get it. I lost my red line now, but anyways, there's like people that get the problem but not the solution. That's really great. Those people, easy. People that don't even get the problem, that's harder, because if they really think banks are great and we need inflation, you have to break a lot of glass there.
Yeah, I agree. And it sounds like your dad is similar to my parents. So they always believed in like owning land. I grew up on a dairy farm, but like owning land or also owning like essentially mining stocks. So like gold, copper, silver, that kind of stuff. So they always believed in that. And then I orange pilled them a little bit ago. And then the other day, my dad calls me and he's like, I should be daily cost averaging. And I'm like, yeah, like, you know, we've talked about that for a while. But he goes, right now, like, I don't want to put money in land. Like I have whatever in mining adjacent investments. But like normally it'd be like, oh, okay, well, like you can't go wrong with land and stuff like that. And he's like, I think Bitcoin's safer. And I'm like, yes, I completely agree. Like I'm glad we're on the same page and I don't know if it's maybe I have been talking a lot about how the rules don't change lately. So I don't know if maybe it was that, but it was something that just clicked, or he's just seeing like the environment changing, like regarding assets. And it's like, okay, well, I know this isn't going to change. And there's still a lot of potential catalysts that are coming, which I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens, but there are so many different catalysts. And yeah, so I mean, I just think once you get people off zero and they start to see the value go up, it'd be better if he was measuring in Bitcoin, but most people aren't. And but as they see like the value go up in fiat terms, it does work for a lot of people that way. That is one thing too that I like Jeff Booth when he was on your podcast recently. Like he was talking about that, and like as someone who gets paid in Bitcoin, I know so many other Bitcoiners wish they could get paid 100% or even partially in Bitcoin. So I feel very fortunate that I'm able to. But when I was selling a little bit for like expenses at the end of the month, I'm like telling the person, like, he's all happy, like, we're making this exchange. And it's like, yeah, I'm happy, except like I'm not, because I'm selling my Bitcoin. But like, so I've started to measure uh, all my stuff like in terms of Bitcoin now. And it's been really like cool to be able to do that, and not able to like 100% be Bitcoin only, just because of like the way everything's set up. But I'm pretty much like avoiding banks for the most part, credit cards, and all of that, because I'm able to just mostly transact in cash or in Bitcoin. Um, and there are like certain companies in Canada, like where you can pay your bills online using Bitcoin. So like that is awesome as well.
I tweeted that just yesterday. I tweeted out, the moment you stop obsessing about the short-term price volatility of Bitcoin is the moment where you find joy in life. Because I see a lot of Bitcoiners, even friends of mine in the Bitcoin sphere, that are still posting, once we cracked the 90K again, and now we went down to 87K. And I'm like, why? I believe that Bitcoin is going to 1 million, to 10 million, then 100 million, and then to infinity, because fiat will be replaced. If I'm secure about that belief, and I really know that, why would I look at the price? Like why does the price, the short-term price movements matter? Yeah, okay, if you want to see, okay, I want to retire in 10 years, maybe it's interesting to know where roughly we will be to plan for your retirement. I get that. Like I get that feedback also a lot. But I'm young. I'm 25. Like I'm not 26 already. I have absolutely no way of selling Bitcoin. I do spend Bitcoin. So I have to also have a similar situation as you. I have, I think, like 70% of my income in Bitcoin, and about 10-20% of my expenses in Bitcoin. So I have to exchange Bitcoin for fiat to sell fiat bills. But I don't call it selling. I call it spending. Just with the route of fiat, I know technically it's selling Bitcoin. I'm sorry. but it's a really zen moment once you say, I have Bitcoin 100%. I'm not in overdraft with like 105% Bitcoin. I also don't have fiat laying around. So I'm just 100% in Bitcoin. If I'm 110% in Bitcoin, 102% in Bitcoin, I will sell some Bitcoin, get more fiat to be at zero again. If I have 97% of Bitcoin, I buy more Bitcoin with that fiat that I have. And I do that now. And I don't need any brain cells for finances. I just being 100% in Bitcoin and can focus 99.999% of my energy now on my life again. Now it happens to be that my life is about Bitcoin. So I have to care about finances again. But if my podcast would be about something else, that would be fine too. Then I don't care about Bitcoin at all. I probably don't even follow the price. I probably be like, what? We're already at 150K. I didn't know that. Because like, why would I know? I only get to know the price because guests are telling me and my Twitter feed is telling me.
Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed too. I mean, I never stress about the price or anything. First bear market I went through, like, yeah, maybe I looked at it a little bit more then, but I was just thinking like, oh, this is such a good buying opportunity. It doesn't really bother me. And then like getting paid on a monthly basis, like I'm not even necessarily hoping the price is high at the end of the month, because it's like, oh, that's the day I get paid. So yeah, I will, I'll get updates from friends, and it's one of those things where I'm happy that they're like keeping an eye on things, and like are happy when the price goes up and everything. But it really doesn't matter over the long term. Especially like the people I'm getting updates from, like they're all buying on a monthly basis. Like it's a little bittersweet, you know. Going to continue to buy the top, going to continue to buy the bottom. It's just is going to average out over the rest of our lives. But yeah, like I don't really see I agree with you where it's like it doesn't make too much of a difference. It's definitely less stressful not looking at it. If I get a text from someone and they're like, "Oh, the price is down 5% or it's up 5%," that doesn't make any difference in my everyday life, like either way. So, yeah, it doesn't make any difference to me. But anytime I get a text about Bitcoin, I'm always happy about it.
Yeah, it's great to see that people get interested in, even if we are disappointed with the question they're asking.
Yeah.
But we have to be humble and we have to acknowledge that they are at 0.1% and not at 80, 60% or something like that. As you know, I have one question that I asked each and every one of my guests, and the question is, what can we learn from you besides Bitcoin?
Yeah, okay. Great question. Yeah, so besides Bitcoin, my life does really revolve around it now. So I'm very fortunate to be able to like pretty much live it 24/7. But besides Bitcoin, like I really do like getting out and seeing, you know, friends and family and just like doing anything with them and just seeing how how our lives are different in certain senses, but really it's all the same. And sometimes I think people forget that we need to have that connection still with friends, family, and seeing people offline. And that's one really good thing with both Vexel and Orange Pill app is, I mean, I guess it's kind of still Bitcoiny, but like meeting up with Bitcoiners in real life as well. But also still putting a priority on like my friends who may or may not be Bitcoiners and family. Like that's what it's really all about. So yes, Bitcoin is making the world a better place, but I want to share that with people I care about.
Yeah, I completely stopped texting friends. When I want to hang out with them, I'm calling them, and then we're hanging out in person, in real life, and doing something physically together. And that's I think the way to do it. I'm a really bad texter. Like I text a lot with Bitcoiners because of guests and invitations and stuff like that. It's like business stuff. But if you look at my WhatsApp, it's almost seems like I have no friends at all. Like I'm not texting anyone because I'm calling them. So I do like that message of yours a lot. Go out, and touch some grass with your friends in physical proximity to each other, and not just online texting. How are you? Like I never get the people that text how are you, like like what the fuck, if you really want to know how am I, then call me. At least.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
It would be so weird if someone asks you like, "Oh, how are you?" and all of a sudden you're like a long text of your life story.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. As you know, we have the end routine where the previous guest is asking a question for the next guest without knowing who the next guest actually is. And the previous guest asked you the question, how high are the chances that we will have a Bitcoin only world with no other fiat currency in 25 years?
That is a good question. 25 years. So, I mean, it's gradually then suddenly, but I think there will be, I would say the chances in 25 years are 10%. I think it will take a little bit longer. I like as a Bitcoin maxi, like I don't like saying I think it's okay for there to be like parallel economies. But in 25 years, I could see there being Bitcoin, say one type of currency, and um, gold will still have value in that time period, I think. But yeah, and I don't know if that's a bad thing. I think because of game theory, like Bitcoin will win out and it'll swallow 99% of economic value. But I think it will take longer than that. I think probably like more like 30 to 50. I think 25 is still just slightly early. Very happen to be proven wrong though. So I'm totally okay if that happens.
I think it's actually good if it is slow. I always make that Titanic example. Fiat is the Titanic. A lot of people are still on there. We need to get people across to the savings boats, to the boat where it's safe to be. And if Fiat is and the Titanic is sinking too fast, people will drown, and that's not a good thing. Thank you so much, Michael, for being on the podcast. Before I let you go, where can people find you and ask you questions and reach out to you?
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me on. The best way to find me is on Twitter _Mike Degroot. And then, yeah, any way you can support the circular economy, I highly encourage that. And if you're not already attending meetups, go find the closest meetup to you. And I hope to meet some more people that listen to this today. And again, thanks for having me on, Robin.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michael. And also thank you so much for everyone that is watching and listening for joining us today. As always, I'll be back tomorrow with another episode. Bye-bye.